G'day. It's been a few months since I made some videos on building a number 6 7mm scale 32mm gauge switch, and in that time I haven't needed to make any more, and therefore any additions, addendums or changes I wish to incorporate into one I haven't really had a chance to do. After those videos were made, quite a few people contacted me and said that they enjoyed the videos and thanked me for making them. But some of the comments also, I suppose, were about the technical quality of the videos and how difficult it was to, first of all, watch them right the way through because they were fairly lengthy. And secondly, the quality of the production. In other words, the camera I was using, the light I was putting on the subject, and everything else that goes along to making these videos. I've decided to make a new video which adds to the previous videos I've made. They don't. It doesn't replace that material, but it uses a ModelOKits number 6 sleeper base, which is a laser cut, I think ply based. It made me think also, the feedback made me think about the quality of the video as well. And so I'm trying out a new camera. It's not a brand new camera, it's my it's my SLR, but it also takes video. So I'm going to test the camera out on this video, and while I make this point. Now, I'm not going to bore you with endless footage of me making every step in this point. You can go back and refer to the previous videos, because the only thing I'm going to include in this video are the changes that I've made based on using this sleeper base. So we'll get on. I'll be quiet and get on with it. But before I do start, I might mention the fact that Glenn, the owner of ModelOKits, provided me with this I suppose review sample of the sleeper base to give it a try when I came to build a point. Now I'm building that point now, so I suppose as a payback to him, I'm doing a bit of a review of it, but also I suppose I need to be clear that I didn't use my own money to pay for it, so that's just a declaration at the start. Thanks a lot. Okay, so if you have watched the videos, I mean, watching this video without watching the previous videos has some limitations. So you would need, if you were planning on building a point using similar techniques to the ones I use, you would need to set about actually spending the time. I think it's probably about a total of 2 hours of watching the previous videos. But you can still, I'm pretty sure you'll still get some hints and tips about using these sleeper bases, which is what you can see here, from just this video alone. It's a good place to start anyway. You may be able to see that I've got the sleeper base mounted on a base, and unlike my previous techniques, the sleeper base is this grey pattern of sleepers you can see in front of on the top. This base is some different thicknesses of balsa wood. This sleeper base is a laser cut base, and it has a web pattern that will allow it to bend and shape to a curve if you needed it to slightly. But the great advantage to it is that it actually has everything set out in an accurate proportion, and it also has all the spike holes pre-drilled. Now, I'm not convinced at this stage that my spikes are going to stay where I put them by going through holes that are pre-drilled or pre-laser cut into balsa. I've never been very impressed by balsa's ability to hold its place when it needs to. But I remain to be convinced, because I've got a friend who's made a point in using this material in this method, and he swears by it and says that it works. So I'm going to take his word for it and see how things go. So I've laid this sleeper base, which is a laser cut base, with the pre-cut holes onto a bed of balsa. Now, because this sleeper has to match my other track, which is on the standard sleepers of a particular thickness, they're about just over 3mm thick and 4mm ply, they need to come out to be around about 7.5mm thick in total, from the top of the sleeper to the underside. Now, to get that height, I had to play around with various thicknesses. And I I managed to work out that 2 pieces of 2mm balsa, 1 layer of 1mm balsa, and the sleeper base, which is a little thinner than the standard Kapler ties that I use, brought the dimensions out to be almost exactly the same as the other track I make. But all the rail cut up and painted with flat earth. I've got the slots where the tie bars move, recessed and painted. And so all I've really got to do now, because everything's pretty much ready to go, so I've skipped all the steps. I'm not filming any of the steps that are in the other videos. All I've got to do now is spike some rail and see how things go with this new system. Now, I've got my laying jig out here again, and the main reason I've got it is not so much because it's critical to this operation, it's more that it gives me a flat surface upon which to lay my steel rule. I'm going to use a combination of trust that these pre-cut holes are in the right place, and I'm going to back it up with the edge of this steel rule here. But the one great, I'm hoping, the one great advantage over this system over my previous system is that I shouldn't have to drill many holes. I may have to drill 1 or 2 extras where I want them, but I can see one that I'm going to drill in a minute or two. But I'm going to start by laying, as with the previous points I've made and in my videos that I've shown, I'm going to start by laying the straight stock rail first. Now, again, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but the notch in the rail is right here, where my fingernail is now. It's going to sit halfway over this point here, over that sleeper there. I'll put some spikes in to hold things in place. As you can see, there's a little bit of rail sticking over past the end of the point. On my points, I would tend to put a little bit more rail, a couple more sleepers beyond that, and it's something I may talk to the manufacturer about and see whether or not he feels that that's a good idea. But generally speaking, what I can do with this is I can put the spikes in and then go back and put them a little bit later. So what I'm doing now is I'm just spiking where I can use the spikes, where I need, just so I can hold things together a little bit, and I'll come back and re-spike them later. Now I'm still going to give them a little tap with the hammer just to drive them home a little bit, but I don't want to go too far, so I don't want to distort the rail. Being code 100, this rail is fairly easy to distort. Now, bringing the steel rule into play, just run it along there and just check that everything's straight. Because as you may remember, if you've seen my previous videos, or if you've ever ground these with a belt sander, this little notch in, you find that the rail very quickly distorts, and to get back, I gave it a pretty good shove back today when I ground the notch out. But that seems pretty straight. So the holes, I know the holes are straight, I've checked them already, but this sleeper base came broken in one spot halfway along, so I had to make sure that it lined up. So if any of yours break, you want to make sure that it lines up. But I'm quite happy with that. But I want another hole just behind my notch. So I've got the 2 long, I suppose, deep trenches there where the tie bars are going to switch, but there's only a single hole there. So the manufacturer's they've laser cut some holes either side of the rail, but where the notch is, there's no web to spike to, so the holes are confined to the other side. Well, I've got a spot there I can put another spike in. So I'm going to just drill a little hole there, and I'm going to spike that bit of rail there. Well, I've got to say that I should start this segment with OMG, because that straight stock rail took me, while it took me about 20 minutes to lay, it was stress-free, quick, and instead of spiking every second sleeper, as I do with my own system, with the normal separate ties, I was able to spike them. I've spiked, as the holes allow, every sleeper along here, and I think because of the rather soft material I'm spiking into, I would have preferred to do that anyway. Now, as you can see, and I hope with greater clarity because of the new camera, I'm focusing in here on the, I suppose the frog and the area around the frog. I've made a couple of small or minor changes to the way I suppose I'm going to set this out, and using one of the cast frogs from ModelOKits, I've set the frog in place. Now, the holes that are laser cut into the sleepers for this particular frog are not quite in the right position. Not all of them are in quite the right position, but the majority of them are. I can see, looking along the edge here, that the holes are a little bit far out, and I'm putting it where I want it to be, not necessarily where the holes tell me it should be. I want it to be lined up with the other laser cut holes. But generally speaking, most of the holes at either end are in the right position, and I'll be able to spike those down just the way I could with anything else. And you use, as with the previous videos, you use the straight stock rail as a reference point for laying the cast frog, and then you use the cast frog and its rails as a reference point for laying the curved stock rail. Now, because these beautifully accurate laser cut holes are pretty much in the right position, I'm expecting to have absolutely no problem in getting all that lined up. So for a beginner starting out to build a point, I can't see how you could possibly do better than using these track bases. They're no more expensive than the sleepers. As a matter of fact, I think the sleepers might even be more expensive, and you've got to cut them all up and stain them. I've stained this sleeper base by dumping it in my normal wood stain, black wood stain and alcohol mix. I've got a container, I think I showed in the previous videos, that I sort of had to mess it around a bit and stuff, but it's come up not too bad. There's a bit of mottling, but I don't mind a bit of mottle, bit of a mottle effect. But I'm going to go ahead and spike this frog down, and this cast frog down, and then I'm going to go on and do the curved stock rail. One other small change that I've made this time is that I'm using, I don't know whether you can see it, but I'm pointing there with the end of this stick. I'm just using Pico insulated rail joiners to join the rail in, and I'll paint them. Okay, we're back again, and as you can see, I've spiked the straight stock rail, spiked the cast frog in place, and spiked the I suppose this exit rail here. I've attached that to the frog with a insulated rail joiner, and I've started to lay in place the curved stock rail. Now, I've become so I'm really impressed with the accuracy of the holes. While I had to re-drill a couple of the holes, or about 8 of the holes on the outside of the casting, I mean, that could be from a whole range of reasons. Whatever was used to set those holes up, there may be some variation based on the fact that this is actually a code 125 sleeper base rather than I'm using code 100, and I would have thought that was part of the reason, but of course some of the holes are in the right position, and I think it's got more to do with where I'm placing the frog more than anything else, and the possibility that this is a different master was used to cast this base, or this frog. I do like these longer frogs, however. They're quite good, but they're not available. The cast frogs from ModelOKits, again, that's a ModelOKits product, as I've said before, are available from them, and as I said, I've become so confident in the accuracy of the holes, because when I laid this set here, if you've got a mistake on this side, it will telegraph to this side, and then it'll telegraph to this side, and I was expecting the holes to be over there with the stock rail over here, and the stock rail is sitting almost exactly with these gauges in place, and that's what I've got to work to. Even if the holes say I'm in the wrong spot, I've got to work to the gauges, because it's got to be 32 millimeters. They're almost exactly in the right place. So I'm really impressed with the way the accuracy of the holes, and I've become so confident that I'm going to lay this curved stock rail using the holes as a guide, and I'm going to lay them in, and then I'm going to come back and lay the rails to that. They're that good. I will lay this exit rail based on this rail here when it's laid. That's why it's not laid in there. But it is now exactly 28 minutes past 5 in the afternoon. I started laying this rail at around about 3:30. It's taken me 2 hours to get to this point, with gaps for feeding the cat and chucking her out, and you know, toilet breaks and a few other bits and pieces. And also, of course, I'm filming this, so to get up, change, move around, get things ready, clean things up, get things ready, has taken me a little bit more time. But I would guess it's taken me an hour and a half to get to this stage if I was working just sort of pretty much non-stop. Track is all basically permanently installed now, and it's taken me only another 20 minutes to reach this stage from the last segment. I thought what I might do is just quickly put a couple of spikes in here in case this video turns into nothing but I suppose a review of the things I've already done. Part of the reason I've not actually done a lot in front of the camera is because there's not a lot to do. So what I've been doing is I've been tending to spike, as I said in a previous segment, I've spiked every rail, every sleeper. I've had the gauges on there, but they're not as needed as when you're doing all your own. Put about 6 in, and then just give them a very, very light tap with a hammer. That's essentially the point spiking completed. All 6 pieces of rail, the 2 check rails and the frog are now in place, and essentially it's finished. So it's taken me probably in total about 3.5 hours to get the point, after the base was completed, to this stage. It's essentially complete. The only thing left to do is to put the 2 tie bars in here in exactly the same way as my other points. So I won't make any changes to that, and after they've gone in, I'll clean the top of the rail, solder on some wires, and it'll essentially be done. Probably another hour's work would be my guess at the most to get it an operating point. That just about wraps up this video. It didn't quite turn out the way I expected. I expected things to go a little bit slower, and there hasn't been a huge amount to show you, because while the point hasn't exactly fallen together on its own, I found the experience to be a really pleasant one, and I'm really happy with the results of the use of the sleeper base. I'm still not absolutely convinced that in the long term balsa is the best way to go with a base underneath it, but in terms of the ease of construction and the overall result, I can't fault the ModelOKits sleeper base. It literally gets a wow from me. I think it's that good. I'd recommend it to anybody, especially a beginning, someone who's beginning in with the idea of building a point in O-scale. That's a 32mm gauge point, of course, because that's what this is set at. You can get both sleeper bases set out for code 125 rail and code 100, although as I've demonstrated on this, I've used this as a code 100 with code 100 rail, and I'm sure Glenn told me it was a code 125 sleeper base. My understanding is that he's going to put some work into getting some other types of points onto the market. I'm not exactly certain what the details of those are, but if this is any guide, then I look forward to seeing what else he comes up with. Perhaps a curved point, or maybe a slightly larger point than number 7. Something that matches the Fast Trax jigs would be good, because in combination with the parts that Glenn is selling and the Fast Trax jigs, it takes all the real hassle out of building a point. So 5 out of 5 as far as I'm concerned. Well done, and I'll see you next time.